Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session with comm professors Tammy Vigil and Danehy and Jody Luber. They're also members of comm's leadership team, and I'll have them tell you more about their roles in just a minute. So first, I'm Lori Nichols. I'm the Assistant Dean of Graduate Affairs here at comm. And at today's Ask Me Anything, our goal is for folks to get to know your leaders better, your professors better, and also to connect with each other on a more personal level. So I'm really excited about this. So, okay, to make the most of the next hour or so, we're going to jump right in. And first, as a question for all three of you, and just feel free to jump in, very informal, very casual. So as professors, what do you teach? And in your leadership role, what is your title and what do you do? And we'll start with Tammy because you're first on my screen.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tammy Vigil. I am an associate professor of communication. I teach, right now I'm teaching mostly the political campaigns class in the mass comm area, media science actually, but it's mass comm media science. And I also teach communication theory. I've taught the understanding media class. I'm going to teach a section of that over the summer. I've taught the 321 research class. I've taught the 211 undergraduate professional presentation class. I can teach the grad level of that as well. I've taught a whole lot of different things while I've been here. This is my 20th year here at BU. And basically, I've taught everything to organizational communication, even I've had courses in. So kind of utility hitter, I guess you might say, of sorts. In my leadership role, I'm the senior associate dean here at the College of Communication, which means that I sort of oversee the associate deans and the registrar, the comm registrar. And I, try to help make sure that everything's running well. I try to help enact the vision of the college that the dean sets out, that Dean Mariette DiCristina sets out, and also the vision of the university that is set out by the president and the provost. So I help with things like new program development and things like that. So kind of a long answer, but there you go.
All right. Thank you, Professor Vigil, and Professor Luber. You're up next.
Hi, I'm Jody Luber. I've been here about 13 years now. I was actually also an undergrad and a grad student here, so it's very full circle for me. I teach in film and television. I'm an associate professor in film and television, but my classes are mostly strategy and innovation, entrepreneurship. So I teach things like media money trail, creating new ideas in the media ventures program, media business entrepreneurship. So anything that really focuses on taking an idea and bringing it to fruition, and anything that follows digital technology or new platforms for content. So really cool companies like Facebook and Metaverse, whatever that may be, and how things are really emerging into the marketplace. So I love all that kind of stuff. I love business models and revenue models and money, which is really funny because I was a person who hated math. So go figure that out. So I really love all that cool stuff. And I do a lot of things with the Build Lab and helping students pitch their ideas. And that's really exciting. So anything that has to do with taking a new idea and making it come to life, or looking at founders and co-founders and figuring out what they did right or wrong, that's me. In the dean's office, this is my first year as an associate dean, faculty and student actions. So I'm still, learning a lot, and you see my team members here. So that's really exciting. So great to be part of a leadership team that is largely female, which is amazing and empowering and really awesome. Highly recommend it. I work with students and faculty. So things, which is generic, I guess that sounds pretty generic, but anything that has to do with student conduct or misconduct, any issues pertaining to that, and any issues that are really affecting faculty life. That's where I am. And a bunch of other things, but I'll let somebody else go.
All right, Professor Danehy.
Hello, I am in the Department of Mass Comm Advertising and Public Relations, and I teach political campaigns, communication research methods, and marketing communications. I've worked with Media Ventures, teaching their research class, and I will be teaching health communications in the fall. And I've been at BU for about 10 years. And this is my first year in my new role as Associate Dean of Academic Affairs. And what I do in that role is I work on anything that is curriculum related. So working working on new courses, new minors, new programs, and anything that's curriculum related.
Great. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, so I'll start with the more work-related question, which is, how did you get to your role? Sort of what was your career path, your career trajectory, either in higher ed or Jody in business, and also in business with your research side of things. And maybe we'll start with you, Anne, since you went last time.
Sure. So I guess like so many people, I took maybe a circuitous route to where I came to where I am today, is that I started out my very first job. I went to graduate school. I was taking a course in public opinion research, a senior seminar, and a professor said to me, you know, I'm going to go to University of Connecticut for this program teaching public opinion research, and you seem to really enjoy this course. I thought you might be interested in it. I was like, because I had gone undergraduate, there was all financial institutions recruiting, and I didn't really have much of an interest in that. And I used to like literally think this is what my life is going to be, is working in investment banking. I had no interest. I was like, okay, I'll look into it. So I did it. I loved it. I did really well in the program. It was a perfect match. And then I went into the world of political polling. So I did political polling for many years, which I still do. And then along the way, I started my own business and started expanding industries. And that's why I'm teaching health campaigns. So I've done a lot of work in healthcare, both working with hospitals and with public health organizations, trying to encourage, pro-social behaviors. And I've done a lot of work in marketing. And then I came to BU and I started teaching part-time. And I really loved it. And then there was an opportunity to come here full-time. So I was really excited to take that on. Very excited to take that on as a new challenge. I remember going to a major college reunion, a milestone year. And the president, who is the president of the college at the time, said, don't think of this as your new beginning. Think about what you want. And she said that every 10 years she would approach her life as a new beginning. And that really resonated with me. And it was about taking chances. And so this opportunity came up. So I said, okay, I will do it. They called me for a 1-year position, and here I am. And then this position is associate dean. I guess it kind of goes through the same thinking, is that after years of being a professor here, about why not try this new role and take on new opportunities. And it's really been wonderful. I work with a great team, and working with, an all-female team is really empowering. And we work really well together. We're really well supported by our senior associate dean, Tammy. And I think that we're doing great things. We're kind of learning our way. We're learning our way and figuring things out, but I see a good future for us.
Oh, that was a great answer. Danehy, thank you. All right, who's going to follow? Who can follow that?
Tammy.
Okay. All right, Tammy.
Well, my story is a little bit different because I have been, as most people might label me, a lifelong academic, even though I have had some jobs. They've been mostly, a year here, a couple of years there, doing things mostly freelance and that kind of stuff. Like I was a sports director for a radio station for a couple of years. I did, I did some freelance news reporting for a bit. I also did some freelance speech writing for a little while, mostly to supplement income while I was going to grad school, that kind of thing. So I've been, I basically, when I left grad school, when I went into undergrad, I wanted to be an attorney. And so I went in thinking I'm going to be a government and international affairs major, and I'm just going to be so great at this. It's going to be so much fun. It's so interesting. And then I realized I needed to learn to talk to people if I wanted to be an attorney. So I took a couple of communication classes and decided maybe I should major in it. And just fell in love with communication, the idea of it. There were so many questions that needed answers, and then so many more questions. Every time you get an answer, you get a new question. And so I really started falling into this idea of researching communication. So I thought, all right, instead of going to grad school or to law school, I went to grad school for communication. And I brought my political communication interests with me. And so I've been all my research has always been more politically oriented or pop culture oriented. Like I did my master's thesis on the TV show Friends, and I did my doctoral dissertation on why people don't vote. And so it's sort of interesting mix of different kinds of ways to get places. And so my path has been pretty straightforward as far as an academic path goes, in some ways, and very untraditional in terms of an academic path in other ways. Traditionally, it's just that I've always been in academia. Most of my grown-up jobs have been as professor, as associate dean, as now senior associate dean. And so that's always been what I've just done as an adult, with the other stuff kind of on the sideline. The the untraditional part was, though, that when I was an assistant professor back way too many years ago to count, I was asked to take on the role of associate dean when there was just one associate dean in the College of Communication. So this was back in like 2009 to 2012. We had a new dean that had come on board, and he was looking for an associate dean, and so I was asked. And so as an assistant professor, I didn't feel like I could exactly say no to the new dean. So I said, well, okay, sure. I don't know what this does or what this means, but I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. And I actually really loved it because I found out that I got to help people. I got to help students. I got to help faculty. I got to help staff. It's a lot of problem solving that I did in that role, and a lot of sort of policy writing. And so it was really fun, really exciting, really interesting, and to be perfectly frank, really exhausting too. And I still had to build a career as an academic. So I stayed in that position for about 3 years. And then when my contract was up, I decided to go back to being just a professor so that I could do some additional research, get a promotion, move on to being an associate professor. And so I wrote a few books and some journal articles, got the promotion. And then this last year, it just so happened that there was some restructuring happening. The associate dean that was here before left, and Dean DiCristina decided to reshape the leadership team. And she asked me if I would be willing to come on board to help with the restructure. And so while I really love writing books and doing research and teaching in the classroom and spending time with students, knowing how much impact this kind of a role could have, I couldn't say no. And then I found out that I got to work with this wonderful team of individuals. And I thought, well, of course I'm going to do this. Yes, of course I'll do this. So I came on board to really help set up the restructure and to also sort of launch some of the vision that Dean DiCristina has sort of set in place for the College of Communication. And I've really enjoyed every minute of it. So the untraditional part was being an associate dean at such a young age and then coming back to it. But the traditional part is that, I write books. I do the things that most professors would do in a classic kind of sense. So that's kind of my story.
Lots of interesting points there, Professor Vigil, that's for sure. Sports director at a radio station. I never knew before.
You never knew.
Yeah,
Who
I love it. This is
knew?
This is great. All right, Professor Luber.
I don't want to follow both of them. I just, took some time.
Are you kidding? You're super impressive.
I
Yeah,
wrote
come on.
some books, in my spare time. And that's the end of the show, folks. Well, mine's a little different, I guess, than that, which is nice. We've got some variety here. I thought I was going to leave BU and be the next Barbara Walters and set the world on fire. There's a big problem. I found out I had a lot of stage fright. And so I loved being a journalist and a writer, which is something I still at heart always consider myself a writer. And I turned out to be a better producer than in front of the camera, which I loved, which is good because I'm really bossy. So that works out really nice. And so even in grad school, I was a producer. I worked at a news station that was here. I worked at a talk show after grad school, and I really hated it. It was very demoralizing going up against Oprah Winfrey and doing a lot of junk talk TV for a national show. And it was really during that period of time when everybody was competing against each other with who's your daddy and all that kind of talk, all that kind of television. So it was kind of the real low point, and yet it was the job that was supposedly the big brass ring at a network. And so it was kind of eye-opening, but it also happened to coincide with when the internet suddenly became a thing. And I found myself, I did a bunch of jobs in between, fast forward, but I found myself accidentally finding the internet and starting a company and stumbling into that big era of .com. And so I created a company, and during the whole first wave of .com things, became an accidental entrepreneur, really. And my only experience with business was in my dad's bagel bakery, which I grew up in, watching my dad make bagels and learning about customers and products and all those kinds of cool things. And literally went out to Silicon Valley and San Francisco during that whole wave of internet, just that whole internet explosion. And I learned so much. And I did get my master's here at BU as well. But survived that and survived that big .com boom, and then the burst and all of that stuff, self-learning and growing a company the whole time. It was fantastic. It was just an amazing thing. But the interesting part was that during that time, I'd always stayed in touch with BU and CGS, where I started my career. And I was asked to come back a lot to speak to other students because there really weren't too many alums at the time who had done anything online. And so I kept getting asked to come back to COM and talk about my experience with the internet. And during one thing I was participating here, I met a professor named Garland Waller, or known as Waller by her students. And she said, you really should come and meet Professor Kathy Perrin. And I met Kathy Perrin, who became a mentor for me and is the director of Media Ventures, and she's retiring in June. And she really invited me to be her partner in this program called Media Ventures, where I've been so blessed to work with other students who are starting, just as it sounds, Media Ventures, which is similar to what I did for many years with my own company. And so I went from running my own business to sort of teaching here a little bit, to teaching part-time, coming on full-time. And she, as I said, will be leaving in June. I will be around her ankles as she tries to get out the door. And then with her blessing and with a completely full heart for everything she's taught me, we'll get to take over that program in July as the second director. And so that's how I, came to BU as full-time professor. And when, as Dr. Vigil was explaining, when the dean restructured the positions in the dean's office, an opportunity opened up to join Dean DeChristina's team. And I was thinking about the position that I now have here, and I started to write a note to Dean DeChristina about the position I have now. And I kept it in my drafts folder thinking, how am I going to manage all of these things? And I didn't write it. And then she reached out and I said, but wait, I have this email in my drafts folder. So it kind of felt like serendipity. And Anne is 100% right. We have an amazing leader in Tammy, Dr. Vigil, and we're very lucky. It's been amazing. It's really been absolutely amazing and challenging. I feel like we're learning everything. Mm-hmm. We're learning so much. And on the days when Anne and I are not, secretly collapsing, saying we don't know what we're doing, we're having an amazing time. We're learning a lot. We really are. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
That's my story.
Jody, sticking to it. Okay, here's a question.
Here she comes with the tough ones. It's coming.
No, it's not going to be tough. It's just to piggyback on what you guys are doing now. But what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? Jody, you would not be in front of a camera and you would not be public speaking.
I would be in front of a camera. I would be, if I could do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had this other side hustle, which is my recipe sites and all the cooking. I would be doing some kind of cooking show or food blog or something, but you'd probably have to drag me. If it wasn't more than one person shooting, you'd have to drag me onto a set. But I love it. Once I get going and chopping and cooking, I'm fine. You just have to drag me out in front of everybody else because I know there are a million people in doing a production.
Have you ever done like TikTok cooking videos or anything like that?
I've done a million cooking for my past company, Women's Forum. I've done thousands of them. And for the Jewish Kitchen, I've done a bunch of them. But there's always one other person shooting or, a PA. But if you were doing it on an actual set with a million people, I don't know how you'd get me out there. But once I get going, I'm fine. It's overcoming that stage fright. That's so hard.
You're going to have like Master Chef Associate Dean edition.
Yeah.
That I could do because I know
somebody's got to call Gordon Ramsay. Come on.
I love that idea. That's good. All right. Let's see. Jody, let's see, Tammy or Anne, who wants to take that same question?
Let Tammy go.
All right, Tammy, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this?
I want to be a paperback writer.
Should we sing? Do our Beatles tunes?
I see what you did there.
No, I'm not. No, in all honesty, I love writing the books that I write, but I always think it would be fun to be an actual novelist, to write fiction. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think it's a huge, huge challenge, though. I know lots of academics who've tried and failed miserably at it, but I think that would be kind of a fun endeavor to get into, because I love telling stories. I love, like the exchange of humor and enjoyment and excitement and just like, telling bits here and there. And it's always harder, though, to translate that onto the page effectively. And so I think that would be a really big challenge, but it actually is really true. I was just being a little facetious, but I am actually being honest that it would be fun to try to be to write a novel of some sort. I think that would be a lot of fun.
You are a writer.
Well, I am a writer. I do write. Obviously, I'm a published author, but it's different. It's a different thing. But one of the things that I do like in my books is that I do tend to tell stories about the people I'm writing about or the situations that I'm writing about. And I always sort of have this little fantasy of what it would be to just tell stories as opposed to the analysis part as well. So
You didn't line your shelf like facing forward with all of your books. Bring them
Yeah.
forward, more forward.
Yes.
We need to do some staging. Let's see.
this was my. I think I need to mirror my
No,
thing.
we
Is
can
that
see
what
it.
we do?
It looks, yeah, we can see it.
Connecting with constituents.
There you go. So this was my first book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next,
And then let's see, there was this book, my second
Moms
one.
in Chief, also
And
by
then-
Tammy R. Vigil.
Yes.
That's
And
got to have
there's
some good
this one.
stories in it, Tammy. That's got to have. some good
This one
stories.
has some good stories in it, some really good
That's
stories in it.
fascinating.
So I always joke that this was my smart baby and this was my pretty baby. Because the cover, I like the cover. They came up with a really good
Yeah.
cover. So anyway, so yeah, so those are the solo authored books. There's also a co-authored book and some book chapters, but there you go.
I could do like a co-authorship, like some of the mysteries that are coming out with former,
Yeah.
former presidents and celebrities.
Mhm.
Yes, well, they do have some books that come out that are a little bit more like, like the faux books about the first ladies, or like I could do instead of like, what was that one, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer,
Yeah.
right? You could do like, Dolly Madison, whatever.
I would read that, Tammy. I would read that.
like pick out random first ladies and have like these murder mysteries or something.
You could do it in the metaverse.
See, there you go, metaverse. So anyway, it's just something that I think would be kind of fun and interesting and would stretch some of the creative muscles a little bit more too. And also you could insert like actual information so you're kind of educating people, but with a fun and entertaining kind of way. But in the meantime, I'm doing this. So and writing a book on conventions. So like the 2020 convention. So there's that part.
Interesting. Got it. All right, Professor Danehy.
So this is a hard question, because I have to say, if I had to pick anything to do, this would be it. And I really do mean it, is that I really enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy being at Boston University. I enjoy interacting with students. I get so much energy for being around students. But if I thought about other things that I wanted to do, and one thing I discovered is that I'd like to be an architect. So when I was looking at remodeling my house and changing things around, I became obsessed with graph paper. And I remember my mother said to me, she said, "How many hours are you spending on that?" And I'm like, I would just start doing things. And it was so fun to me, and to do the graph things and do them to scale. And then I got really into, taking down load-bearing walls, which everyone's like, load-bearing walls are a big thing. And I'm like, it's really not a big thing. It can be done. And I've had things done to my house when contractors are like, you can't do that. And I was like, I bet I can. And then I try to figure it out, and I'd find somebody who did it for me. So I really like that. And then my passion all my life, like when I was younger, I always had dreams of becoming an actress. I always loved that. And I used to love acting. But when I got to college, I was so intimidated that I never pursued it outside of, like, in high school. It was the activity that I did that I enjoyed the most. And then in college, I was intimidated and I didn't do it. And then I'm thinking, I should have done that. I should have been willing to take more risks, and I wasn't. So.
And that actually ties in perfectly to one of the questions that was on my list, which is, what would you do if you couldn't fail?
Oh, well, that would be it.
Is that
That would be it. That would be it. And I watch people when they act, and I get like, I think I could do that. So before the pandemic, I was going to do improv classes. And I scared my children, though, because I said to them, I said, well, at the end of the improv, you can invite your friends and family into a show, so you guys could come there.
Never happened.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I said, I think I'm going to do it. I said, I think it would be great.
There's some,
I'd go, I'd
some
watch, I'd be in the
for
front
parents
row.
too.
You'd have a whole team of folks from here that would definitely be there. cheering
Good.
you
Well,
on.
you know what? Maybe I'll pursue that now with all the free time that I have, unfortunately.
Yeah, but there's
That's
some
the
memories
drawback.
you can't get out of your head. I just saw mom do X. No,
Yeah, no.
not good.
Yeah, but then way in the future, they'll be like, remember that time that mom did X? And we were so embarrassed, but wasn't that actually really pretty cool?
Yeah.
I don't think that would ever happen.
Right? Inspire them to try something that
Yeah.
you wouldn't ordinarily want to do.
Mm.
That's the boundaries a little bit,
That's right. Why not? Tammy and Jody, how about you guys? What would you do if you couldn't fail?
Something public facing. I'm not sure what it was. I used to think when I was younger, some kind of stand up, maybe, but then I realized I was just really talking about my crazy family. So I don't know if it's
That's
really
the point of stand up, right?
I don't know if it's stand up or therapy. So
both.
yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really hard question, because I'm trying to think of what I don't do because I'm afraid to fail.
Right.
And I honestly can't think of many things that I really don't do because I'm afraid to fail. Although maybe something like, it might sound sort of a little bit silly, but something like simple, like skiing. Like, I fall down a lot. I tried snowboarding once and couldn't quite muster it. So maybe I would try it if I knew I wasn't going to actually break a leg or a neck or an arm or something. But I have to be honest, that in the course of my life, I can't think of things where I'd be like, I don't want to be wrong, or I don't want to fail. I just sort of tend to, in some cases, like some people might even call it, bulldoze my way through some things. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then we take a new route. And so it's a little bit tricky for me. I don't know what else in terms of like what I would do if I couldn't fail. Like, if I knew I could be safe, maybe I'd try skiing a little bit more or something along those lines. I know, maybe it's swimming. That's the one thing that kind of, if I knew I wasn't going to drown, I might actually learn to swim well. But that's the one, my one fear is like, I can't see in the water. So I know that's not exactly where you're going with that question, but it's just, a little, most of the time, professionally, I've tried things, and I tend to still try things, but I find things that I love. I happen to fall into a career path that I love. So it wasn't like I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done X or Y or Z. It's sort of like I've dabbled in some things, and now I found what I love, and I tend to kind of stick with it. So, except that paperback writer thing. That's one.
I was going to ask you if you'd be a songwriter, Tammy. Could be like Lennon McCartney.
Oh wow, man! There you go.
Channel your storytelling into
channel it into song.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that there's a current market for that quite so much. Not my storytelling.
Always a
You never
market
know.
for music. Actually, so speaking of music, one of the questions is, so what's your favorite? We'll just go with like sort of media, anything, right? Your favorite movie, favorite TV show, podcast, book. If you want to bring it into the music genre, feel free. It's a free for all. So anything you want to suggest, or like recommendations, favorite things, what have you been watching lately, listening to?
But kind of going off what Jody was saying earlier, and what I was kind of joking about the MasterChef thing, but I actually really enjoy cooking as well. And and so I've been into cooking shows a lot lately. So I watched all of the like old episodes of MasterChef, and now MasterChef Junior, and like the Next Level Chef and Chopped and everything. So I love those kinds of shows. I like them because there's that competition parts to them, but I also really like just thinking about flavor profiles and food arcs and, how do you put things together and how do you think of things in a creative manner that you might not have thought of before? Like, oh, I didn't know those two kinds of flavors might go together. Now it's really interesting to try to do that. And sometimes I'll take some of the things that I see and I'll try to either recreate them or create versions that are a little bit different. And so that sort of experimentation is so watching those shows is really one of my favorite things right now. But things change, kind of move with the moment, I guess. So
Yeah, I like it. All right, Jody or Anne, any favorites? Any recommendations?
I'm also big on food shows. I'm an Ina Garten Barefoot Contessa die-hard fan. It's just ridiculous. It's just stupid at this point. But I have a favorite. I love The Namesake, Jhumpa Lahiri. She's also a BU grad. I just love her books. The Namesake is my favorite of her books, and The Bell Jar is my all-time favorite book. But everybody, I think, goes through a Sylvia phase.
Yeah.
So I think you just everyone goes through a Sylvia Plath phase. I also love her Ariel book, her poetry book. That book of poetry is probably in my top. I am going through a really ridiculous Shonda Rhimes Station 19 binge. I won't lie. I tend to come to series very late after they air, and I don't know what it is about that. I didn't have it with Grey's Anatomy, but I am watching Station 19. It is a guilty pleasure.
Nice.
So for me, I never watched much TV, and now that we have all the streaming and that you can watch things and binge, one thing that I discovered during the pandemic was The Blacklist, which I became so I could sit and watch it, and my husband was like, 2 episodes and we're done. I'm like, but I want to know what happens next. So I discovered that I am a huge James Spader fan. So I enjoyed that. Music wise, during the pandemic, I started walking a lot. And so I started doing my playlists on Spotify, which was kind of interesting because I discovered music I didn't even know that I really liked. But when I started putting playlists together, I actually like hip hop. I don't really know the artists, but I like them. I like, I'm not going to go into the ones that I like because it's a little.
Oh, come on, you could go old school Salt and Pepper. Come on,
Pitbull.
What a man! Come on.
And I like Motown, but Adele has become my favorite, which I feel like is a little but I've actually loved Adele. I listen to Adele when I drive it. I'm not gonna lie, I listen to Adele and play the music really loud, and I sing because I have a terrible voice, and the only place I can sing is in the car. So that's what I do. I come into work and I play Adele and sing top of my lungs.
We got to pass her on the road someday. We got to pass her on the road someday.
Oh man, no, we got to just crank up now that the dean's office is closed. We're going to crank up some Adele and see if we can get Anne singing.
Awesome.
I love it.
Love your hello from the other side.
Yeah,
out of her office.
Fantastic.
So funny. All right, you guys were talking about food, and now I'm hungry. But let's talk about your favorite, your favorite food, your favorite nosh, your favorite Boston restaurant, or your favorite Boston area restaurant. We don't have to limit it geographically. What food truck do you want out front?
So okay, so I have a sentimental favorite that is actually good food as well, and then there's like the good food favorites. So my sentimental favorite is Casa Romero. Like, down the speakeasy, down on the, you have to like go through the alleyway to get to it. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but if you haven't, it's excellent, really good Mexican food. And they have amazing margaritas. So if you're into margaritas, good place to go. But yeah, Casa Romero. And that's where I had my first date with my eventual then husband. So, you know,
Mhm.
it became kind of one of those things. But, you know, when he said, oh, sure, you walk down Newberry Street, turn on, I think it's Gloucester, and then turn up the alleyway, and then you go down these steps into this. And I'm like, wait, what?
What are you
Yeah,
saying?
so I got there early to check out the place, you know, beforehand. So, but anyway, so it's really amazing. I really enjoy that. I think that's one of the best places. It's consistently great food. It's been there forever, and the family that owns it is really, really friendly, nice, and so that's I think my favorite place to just, you know, whenever I'm doing something special, that's kind of a nice special place, mostly because of the, you know, it's really good food, but it's also the romantic kind of memory of it all.
Aw, that's nice.
So
Very nice. All right, Jody or Ann?
All right, I have a problem with this question.
You can't choose just one.
No, I can't choose any, so I have a problem with this question. Okay, and I don't mean any disrespect. So my dad had a little bakery. Here's my problem. Okay, here's my problem. So I lay this out as a disclaimer. I have arguably lived in the best food cities. I lived in San Francisco. Come on. I lived in Chicago. Come on. And I grew up in New York. I have a problem with this. So what am I going to do? So I'm kind of stuck here. So if I'm craving something, my husband and I are known to drive to Newton to Rosenfeld's Bagels on a Saturday morning, and they're only open for a few hours. You got to get the onion bagel. You've got to toast said onion bagel. You got to let those little crispy onions fall off. And after you put your smoked salmon cream cheese on, you got to take those crispy onions and put them on top, and then a little bit of sliced cucumber. That's it. I can't give you anything else because I dream and think about Chicago food and New York food, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It's just that local little neighborhoody food. So I don't have anything for you. I'm sorry, but I'm taking recommendations.
I'm
I
ready.
have lots, so because unlike my colleagues, I am not a master in the kitchen, but I really like going to restaurants. So, and I like trying new restaurants. I was disappointed when Island Creek closed, but they did open a place near me. So during the pandemic, you know, when things started opening up, they had outdoor seating. So you had to get there at 5 o'clock or else you wouldn't be seated. So my husband and I would go and get there and have our oysters and sit outside. And then we started bringing a bag of blankets with us. We'd be outside and get our cocktail and our oysters and be cold. And I love the Beehive in the South End. That's really great. That's a lot of fun to go to. And I don't know, I have so many because we always try to find new places, and because I am not a very good cook, I will admit to that. So
you don't have to.
Come on, you do a good Thanksgiving turkey. I've seen the pictures.
Yes, I have Tammy on speed dial for turkey. I'm texting her how I'm like, I've never made a turkey before. I'm doing it. I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, like is
I
this
will be
breast
setting,
tied up?
including.
She did not ask that. She did not ask that question. You did not ask that question. Oh man.
The Butterball emergency phone number if you have Tammy.
I didn't know which I know, and I didn't know. I'm like, it says breast side.
She had it right. Her instinct was absolutely correct. So
that's fantastic.
Thumbs up on that one.
That's fantastic.
That's so
I love it.
Good job, Ann.
Yeah.
Cooking your Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a big meal to cook if you don't cook. You know,
that's
a big responsibility.
Yeah, but I had
so like bravery there. Big props for bravery.
Absolutely. Oh God.
I did. I had Tammy on speed dial. I'm not ashamed to say I used her. So I did text her and asking her questions.
But everybody does. I mean, I call my mother and my aunt all the time. Nobody knows what they're doing. But breast side up. Come on.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Tammy is Ann's cooking mentor. That's good. Actually, Jody, you brought up earlier that Kathy Perrin is your mentor. I wanted to ask you guys if you have a mentor, or just sort of, you know, advice for students as they're sort of looking for a mentor through their academics or through their professional lives.
Yep.
So I don't know if Jody, if you want to elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, I think people, you'd be amazed at how people can show up in jobs that you don't expect. I took a job between after grad school and before starting my company. It was a gentleman who was the managing partner of Grant Thornton, which was at the time like a top 6 accounting firm. And I had a position as a reporter, and that position was over. They couldn't afford to keep me. I knew it was going to be 1 year. I was gone. And it was before I moved to Chicago. And this guy, his name was Sandy Edline. He actually named my company, which is womensforum.com. He taught me so much about business. I had no idea I was even going to go into business at the time. And he taught me so much and continued to advise me. And I didn't even realize he was mentoring me just by working with him and for him and so on and so forth. People can show up in your life in so many different ways. And I think it's intimidating sometimes to ask for help and to speak up, just because of the structure of the role you might be in. And I found more times than not that people want to help and they will help. And all it really takes is asking. And I try really hard with my students I just had a student on today, to really coach them, not to apologize for their questions. Not so many times, and I find it with women a lot. They'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is a good question. Oh, I don't know if this is a good idea. To walk into a room and walk into any situation, you have a right to be there, to ask, to learn, to ask for help, ask for guidance. You're not always asking for a job. You're just asking if someone could spend some time with you and give you some advice, or ask them about their career and how they got to where they got. And you'd be amazed at how many people are available to meet with you and talk to you. And I've been fortunate in that way to have some folks along the way. Kathy turned out to be the most extraordinary and unexpected person for me at this. Without her, I would not have had this part of my career, for certain.
That's great. Yeah, we love Kathy. Tammy and Anne, anything about mentoring? Any like mentors that you've had throughout your career when you were a student, or even now, or just any, general advice for folks on the subject?
You want to go, Tammy, or you want me to go? So I'm thinking that I wish I had more mentors. I wish that I had reached out to people and, learned more about what they did and how they did it. But I did have mentors in the sense that, like, jobs that I had, observing their leadership styles and their work styles and kind of trying to understand their success. And I worked with somebody, he was very successful. And one thing that I noticed about him is that he would just ask. If he wanted something, he would ask. And I remember thinking, you're going to ask him for all of that? Like, wow, that's a big ask. And he would ask and they would say, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. And so that got me to learn that I need to ask, and all they can do is say no. So I kind of observed him. He was really interesting too, as it was when computers were coming. I feel so old. It was when computers were coming about, and CD-ROMs, and he couldn't turn on his computer, but he was selling CD-ROMs, programs on CD-ROMs. And I was like, and I remember coming back from a meeting and I'm like, I literally have to show him how to turn on his computer. Yet here he is pitching CD-ROMs and how to use interactive media and multimedia. And I was like, so I learned a lot about that just having that confidence and taking that risk.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Like, just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. I think that's great advice in general. Just don't be afraid to do it.
And I think, what Jody was saying about women particularly tending to hedge themselves, I think is a really big part of things. Just to kind of jump in on with my perspective on this, I've had a lot of people who have influenced in different kinds of ways how I teach, how I do research, and I wouldn't necessarily say like there was one mentor that I could point to, but I've had relationships with really smart and interesting people. And I have to confess that I sort of fell a little victim to the mythos of academia at times, and especially being, being a Latina in academia, there's sort of this idea that, you know, you got to be as good or better, and you always have to know what you're doing. And that's just an academic thing to begin with. Like, there's always that sort of, I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing. And so there was, I always had a hesitancy to want to ask for help, I think in similar ways to like what Anne was saying. And so there were opportunities that I had looking backwards that I say, oh, I wish I would have cultivated that relationship a little bit more. And I wish I would have paid more attention to the opportunities that I'd had to build those relationships. And so instead of, though, letting that sort of hamper what I've done, it's sort of in the meantime, I've sort of built these informal mentoring relationships with folks. And I also have sort of taken it upon myself to say, you know, I might not have recognized the opportunities. So I want to help others to recognize those opportunities. And I want to help others to not while they should be willing to ask, and they should always be, I'm happy when people ask. Like, I want people to feel comfortable not even having to ask. Like, I want them to know that I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be willing to share and to help and to guide and to mentor in different kinds of ways, whether or not they formally ask for it, because I know how hard that can be for people. And I know how that sort of myth of always being right or always being smart, or, you know, having to always have this image can sometimes hinder people from asking questions. So I learned the lesson sort of in reverse, to be a better mentor, or to try to be a better mentor anyway, because I know how hard it is sometimes for people to ask, or for people to feel as though they might have a door shut in their face. So I don't want people to ever feel like that's a possibility. So it's sort of, I might not have had identifiable sets of mentors, but it sort of made me feel like I need to think about how I am as a mentor and what I can offer others, so that there's sort of like the hand, helping the hand up, you know, kind of thing. So
That's great. No, that's so helpful, you guys. It's like, it's great for people to hear that. I think especially when they're starting out their careers, you know, I mean, this is advice they can just take with them and carry it forward as they're, you know, making their way through BU and as they're graduating from BU. But actually, so speaking of BU, I have two.
Actually, Lori, can I jump in for one more second? Just say one more thing about mentoring.
Yes.
The one thing that I will say to folks is that you also need to identify the fact that your mentors, and I think Jody sort of, you know, illustrated this a bit too. Your mentor doesn't have to look like you, sound like you, or be exactly who you are in order to be a good mentor. It's always helpful when there's representation, but sometimes there's not going to be that person that you fully identify with that's gonna still be willing to help and can offer you something. And so, like, be open-minded to who mentors can be. I think that's the big piece of advice I would tell folks, and not always to necessarily have to create those labels, but you can learn from folks without saying, will you be my mentor? Or, you know, you can still have those relationships and kind of think about it relationally instead of label wise. And I think that would be helpful. So sorry, didn't mean to jump backwards, but that just kind of.
That's awesome. I'm glad you said that, because I think that's really important. And actually, it ties into sort of the last two questions that I wanted to ask you guys, because we don't have a lot of time left. But your favorite thing about COM and your favorite thing about BU. You can also tie in your favorite BU memory, but I definitely wanted to hear what your favorite things are about where we spend a lot of our time. And have made some good friends.
Such a big.
Well, I can jump in because everybody will steal my answer if I don't jump in fast. So, for me, it's always been the people. It's always been the people. BU is its people. And even though the people at BU turn over all the time, like the students come and go, they're still part of BU, and there's sort of a consistency to the experience of engaging with the students, whether they're graduate students, undergraduate students. Faculty does turn over, staff does turn over. I mean, I've been here 20 years, and I can tell you there are very few, there are some, but there are few people who have been here as long as I have now. And so it keeps changing, but there's it seems like BU attracts a type of person that is interesting and engaging and smart and interested in the world. And I am just always blown away by how consistently that's the case. And so the people at BU are really my favorite part, and in COM in particular, because you get so many diverse perspectives and bits of experience, and the willingness of BU students and COM students in particular to really roll up their sleeves, jump in there, have a great conversation, and be able to have conversations without it becoming, without it becoming hostile. like we can exchange. I teach political campaigns and we talk politics in my class in a way that, you know, folks can be comfortable expressing different kinds of perspectives. Granted, we're at BU and we're in Massachusetts, so the diversity of perspectives politically is not very wide, but we have folks who come in and, you know, are still feeling comfortable to have those exchanges and to have conflict or tense conversations and still walk away knowing that there's respect there. And so I really appreciate the people in so many ways that it's, I mean, I can't even count all of the ways in which I think that they've been so great in and almost on every level. I can't say I love everyone, you know, but I really like, you know, I really like as a whole, the folks that I've interacted with over all of these years. So that's probably my favorite, my best thing of both BU and of COM in particular. I love the sense of humor the students have. I love the way that the staff members pull together and just like get the job done, even under the most difficult of circumstances. Like there's never say die in COM. And I think that's really admirable. So.
Yeah.
You're right, Tammy. I would have stolen that answer. That's an excellent. Yeah, I think it is the people here. I think it's the people here, from the faculty, the staff, the students, and what I love about the education in COM is the fact that it is the combination of, we have academic scholars and we have practitioners, and that perspective that it brings to the students so that they have such a broader background in terms of seeing how the content that they're learning and on the applied and the application, but also having that theoretical framework to understand why is it that certain advertisements work and how do you do advertisements, how do you develop media, and understanding human behavior. And I think that that's really the secret sauce of our college. And I think I've learned so much from my colleagues, and it's great. And I've never, you know, it is such a hardworking, the people in this universe, in this college are so incredibly hardworking and so student-centered, and really, and hardworking and interesting, and very innovative and forward thinking. And I love that. I love, you know, I worked at a job one time and I remember I came up with, you know, oh, why don't we do it this way? We could do this. And I was told, well, it's not how we do things. We do it this way. And I was like, I can't work here. It was not a good fit for me. I don't hear that. At BU. And the students energize me so much. When I get done teaching, I feel full of energy, because they're just like so excited about their future. And, you know, and students struggle too. It's not all like, oh, students just always happy and everything's so great for them. They struggle. And, you know, that I like to be there too, in terms of being able to support them in their academic journey. And so yeah, that's it.
Well, there's nothing left to say. It's a really big question. For me, it's very personal because I started here as a student in 1982. So I see it in a different way. I get to almost live my favorite memory every day. In fact, today, Tammy, when you and I took a walk and you said Bay State Road, I went, let's go, because my favorite moments were driving up on Starro Drive and seeing that Citgo sign, knowing that another year and another fall, I still mark the calendar year as September. Mm-hmm. There's something about Boston in the fall. It never leaves you. And BU doesn't leave you. For me, COM doesn't leave you. The memories, the experiences here, for me, even working here, and still a student at heart here. Even walking into the dean's office the first time, I was like, am I in trouble? Still can't really shake it. So there are these full circle moments. So for me, favorite memories, walking down Big State Road, going into the brownstone, all of those things, I feel my friends here, the relationships that I made 40 something years ago, which I can't even wrap my brain around. they feel as real today as they were in 1982. The other side of that is, as Anne said, is this place has evolved. It has evolved. I came here to be a journalist. That meant learning to write. Today, it means learning the business of journalism, learning how companies create value, how one product becomes something that goes in a paper, online, in a short, in a movie, becomes so many other products. So I've seen COM evolve in so many incredible ways. And that comes, as you both explained, through collaboration with students and with faculty. So it is amazing to be here and have that energy feed off of itself. It really is the most rewarding experience to be part of students' lives and to work with faculty, staff, with everybody here, and to really feel like you are doing something worthwhile. I really mean that. We can say it, but you really feel it here. Everybody here is invested in something, and it's rewarding. It's personally and professionally fulfilling. It honestly is. I don't know any other way to say it.
Right.
That was awesome. Great answers, you guys. Just really, really thoughtful and inspiring, and I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, we are right at the hour. So if there's anything else, feel free
We want to ask you something.
No, that was not part of the. That was.
What would you do if you could not fail?
I don't know. Maybe I'd be a songwriter.
Ah,
There you go. I see the recommendation to me was really a self wish fulfillment. There you go. Self-reflective.
That's right. I don't know about that. All
Flip
right.
in the script on Dean Nichols.
Oh, flipping the script. Yeah, thanks. I want to thank you guys. That was just really wonderful, and I can't wait to do this again. So now I know to bring some bagels for Jody, bring them some oysters for Anne, just and Tammy and I'll go for a walk and just we'll poke through the alleys of the secret
Yeah.
The secret speakeasies.
I think we need to all go to that speakeasy. That actually sounds so much fun.
I love it.
Tammy was a sports director. What?
I know. Who knew?
I had no idea. Oh,
Same.
that's awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Lori, for hosting us and for
Thank you.
doing this for the students and for folks to kind of get to know who we are and what we do a little bit more, because I think there's always a perceived sort of veil over administration and administrators sometimes. And so I think it's nice to kind of give folks a little bit of a peek behind the screen. So thank you for setting this up and for being such a great facilitator.
It's great. And I hope that students now and faculty, staff, everybody feel like they know folks a little bit better, and they know that we're here for people. And
we're here, we're accessible.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, all right.
Unless Anne's giving a concert in her office.
Yeah, I like doing that.
Adele, we're going to start cranking the Adele.
Singing Adele and
I like it.
Well, thanks, you guys.
Well, thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.